What if everything you knew about your family turned out to be a lie? I lived over 40 years of my life believing I knew who I was. I thought I knew where I came from, who my parents were, and what my story looked like. But one simple decision, something I did out of curiosity, turned my entire world upside down. I was switched at birth. I didn't find out until I was in my late 40s. For decades, I celebrated birthdays, made memories, built a life, all while living under someone else's name, in someone else's family. And the most painful part? Nobody knew. Not my parents. Not my siblings. Not even me. A single hospital mistake on the very first day of my life shaped the course of everything that followed. How could something this life-altering go unnoticed for 40 years? And what happens when the truth finally comes crashing in? Stay with me, because once you hear how it unfolded, you might start questioning your own story too. My story begins in the late 1970s, inside a crowded hospital. Nurses hurried back and forth, carrying tiny bundles wrapped in pastel blankets. My mother always told me it was one of the happiest days of her life, the day she finally held me in her arms. What she didn't know was that somewhere between the nursery and her hospital bed, a mistake had already been made. Two families, both ordinary and excited to welcome their newborns, came through those same doors that week. My parents went home believing they had their first child. Across town, another family carried home what they thought was their third. Neither one of them could have imagined the truth. I was placed in the wrong home. And the child who was supposed to be theirs was placed in mine. But none of us knew. My parents raised me with love, never suspecting a thing. Birthdays were celebrated, photographs filled albums, and family traditions grew. To the outside world, nothing looked unusual. And yet, there were always little cracks. Jokes made at reunions about how I didn't quite look like anyone else. A raised eyebrow when an old family story didn't line up. But who would ever take those things seriously? Looking back, maybe the signs were there all along. But nobody ever asked the one question that could have changed everything. Tell me, have you ever had a family joke or story that made you stop and wonder if there might be more to it? Growing up, I never imagined there was anything unusual about my life. To me, my family was just my family. I was raised in a strict, working-class household. My parents believed in discipline, hard work, and resilience. If I wanted anything, I had to earn it. I learned how to stretch a dollar, how to work with my hands, and how to push through when life wasn't easy. There was love, yes, but it was tough love. Meanwhile, the child who should have grown up in my place was being raised in a very different world. Their life was filled with opportunities one never had, piano lessons, sports camps, vacations, and a college fund waiting for them before they even finished high school. If my life was about surviving, theirs was about thriving. Still, I didn't feel out of place. Not really. I knew my parents loved me. But every now and then, I'd catch a look, a pause in their eyes when people would joke, "She doesn't look like the rest of you." They laughed along, but I could sense something deeper in those moments. I never asked. I didn't want to. Why stir trouble when everything felt fine? But those little cracks, those half-jokes, those small moments of doubt, they were clues I didn't recognize until much later. Have you ever brushed off a family joke, only to realize later it might have meant something more? I did. And decades later, I would learn just how serious those words really were. I never planned to uncover the truth. It all started with a Christmas gift, a DNA kit from my daughter. She thought it would be fun to learn about our ancestry, maybe discover a few cousins, or find out if the rumors about Irish roots were true. I took the test without a second thought, mailed it off, and forgot about it. Weeks later, the results came in. At first, I skimmed through them casually. But then my stomach dropped. There were no matches to my parents. None. No siblings. No cousins. According to science, I didn't belong in the family I had called mine my whole life. At first, I laughed. It had to be an error. Maybe the company mixed up the samples. But the more I stared, the less I could deny it. And when I ordered a second test with a different company, the results came back the same. That's when fear crept in. I started asking myself questions I never thought I'd ask. Had my mother hidden something from me? Was there an affair? Was I adopted and never told? I confronted my family. The looks on their faces, shock, denial, tears, told me they were just as blindsided as I was. They insisted there was no secret, no adoption, no hidden story. But DNA doesn't lie. One by one, my siblings and parents tested too. The truth was undeniable, I was not biologically theirs. And across town, another family was going through the exact same nightmare. Two families. Two lives. Switched at birth. What would you do if a DNA test revealed you weren't actually part of the family that raised you? Would you chase the truth, or would you rather never know? Share your thoughts below. What started as a fun holiday gift had blown open a secret buried for 40 years. But the hardest part was still ahead, the moment when both families would be forced to face one another and confront what had really happened. The truth hit like a thunderclap. After all the tests, all the tears, and all the arguments, there was no denying it anymore. I had been switched at birth. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, the DNA reports spread out in front of me like pieces of a puzzle that didn't belong together. My parents, well, the people I had always called my parents, were silent. My mother had her head in her hands. My father stared out the window, his jaw clenched tight. 40 years of certainty had just unraveled in a single moment. I thought I'd feel angry. But instead, I felt lost. Who was I, really? Was my whole life a lie? And how was I supposed to process the fact that my biological parents had raised someone else as their own? In the days that followed, emotions swung wildly. There were tears, arguments, long silences, and painful questions no one could answer. My parents apologized over and over, as if they had done something wrong. I had to remind myself, they hadn't chosen this. They had loved me unconditionally. But still, the guilt ate at them. And then came the phone call. On the other end was a voice just as shaken as mine. The other family had learned the truth too. They were living the same nightmare, staring at the same DNA results, and realizing their child wasn't really theirs either. For the first time in decades, our two worlds were about to collide. Before I tell you what happened when we finally met, can I ask a favor? If this story has pulled you in so far, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I share stories that remind us just how fragile and powerful family really is. You won't want to miss what comes next. Because the day we stood face to face with the family we never knew was the day everything changed forever. Meeting my biological family for the first time was surreal. I remember walking into that room with my heart pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. There they were, the people whose blood ran in my veins, whose features mirrored mine in ways I had never seen before. It was awkward at first. Do you hug? Do you shake hands? Do you stare too long, searching for yourself in their faces? I did all of those things. And when the silence broke, it was with tears. They cried, I cried, even the child they had raised, who should have been me, stood there in shock, caught between two lives that suddenly made no sense. The weeks after that meeting were some of the hardest of my life. My parents, the ones who had raised me, struggled with guilt. My biological parents struggled with grief. And I felt torn in half. Part of me wanted to cling to the only family I had ever known. Another part of me longed for the connection I had been denied for 40 years. We tried family dinners. We shared photo albums. We traded childhood stories. Some moments felt warm and natural, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. Others felt heavy, as if time itself was reminding us that decades had been lost, decades we could never get back. And yet, in the midst of the chaos, I realized something important: love isn't erased by truth. But truth does demand to be faced. The question was, could we build something new out of all this pain? Or would the past always keep us divided? Looking back now, I realize my life was never a lie, It was simply a story I didn't fully understand until later. The parents who raised me gave me love, discipline, and the values that shaped who I am today. My biological parents gave me life itself. Both truths can exist, side by side. It hasn't been easy. The scars of what was lost will never fully fade. I can't get back the birthdays, the childhood moments, the years I should have known my real family. But I can move forward with open eyes and an open heart. If there's one lesson I've learned, it's this: family is not just about blood, and it's not just about who raised you. Family is about love, honesty, and the courage to face the truth, even when it hurts. We don't always get to choose the chapters life writes for us. But we do get to choose how we carry them forward. And now I want to hear from you. If you were in my shoes, would you embrace your biological family, or hold tighter to the family that raised you? Let me know in the comments below. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because sometimes, the stories we tell remind us just how precious family really is.